Welcome back to Moto Matters for some more fun and excitement. Today we're going to finish up our maintenance to the 450. We're going to put on new chain and sprockets. Show you a few different ways you could possibly get that done. And after this, we're finally done and ready to get on to our actual winter project. So I'm real excited to get that started. Now keep watching for that. As for today, let's get started. Chain and sprockets. Like everything, lots of cleaning involved.
I'm gonna start cleaning.
Let's get some of this crud off just by scraping the goo. Try not to cut your finger off in the process. For me, a challenge. Okay, there's a few ways to do this. Power tools make it much easier. Electric impact, beautiful. Or if you're old like me, you have an air-driven impact. But make sure you use an impact socket, or else your other socket's warranty will be void. If you say you don't have power tools or access to air, you're just starting out, you got it on your own. I made real cheap. It's called Neil's Sprocket tool. Couple of pieces of steel and some rod and a bolt. Here, I'll show you how it works. Come over here. I'll put the pins on here to hold the sprocket to keep it from turning. That you can do with the chain off. You hold this and put your socket on, break it loose. It works okay. Okay, the hand tool away. You want to put the bike in gear, and you're using the engine compression to help stop it. And you'll notice, as we turn, it just turns over the engine. So, a way to help stop it, you get your son, mom, dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you have, see if they'll stomp on the rear brake. That stops the rear brake, and then you can break it loose. Now you have to have the chain on for that, so don't take the chain off first, like we have our chain on here. But let's say you're all by yourself trying to do this. Didn't want to get the new grips dirty with my greasy gloves.
I would definitely bring protection.
But go ahead and climb on your bike, right, and stomp on the rear brake myself. Then get the ratchet in there and pull against it. And look at that. We're loose already. Now I'm going to climb off the bike before I crash it. One of the most embarrassing things is to crash your bike in the garage. And it also normally breaks off the levers.
How could you possibly know that?
On our Honda here, we have this special washer, and you'll notice it's not flat, it's convex. It's a spring-loaded washer. So you really want to make sure you pay attention to which side goes in and which side goes out. You know, the peaked side goes on the outside, and that sits in this groove on this washer like that. And that helps lock it in place to keep it from falling off. This is also a part that I use Loctite on. Strong, never coming apart ever again. Loctite. Alright, to get the master link off, my pliers here, and notice how I'm holding the wheel to keep it from turning, to keep the bike still. Pop. There we are. They should all fall apart. That's that. All right, I have the chain laid out flat and arced over. This will kind of tell you how worn it is. The chain in great shape is going to be pretty straight. They'll never be perfectly straight They'll always have a little arc to them. But the more arc, the worse shape your chain's in. And this one had needs replaced, but I've actually ridden with a lot worse. Along the same lines, how do you know when your sprocket needs replaced? You'll look at the wear and the shape of the U. The teeth get really narrow and hooked. See the way the U is widened on this side? That means it needs replaced. We can see it a little more so on the front, how hooked those teeth are. That's a worn out sprocket in need of replacement. And you also note which side's out on the sprocket. Flat side, concave side. Some sprockets see the offset. That will matter. Got everything all cleaned. Want to get a little grease on the spines. Now if you want to be real fancy and go the extra step, see how it says outside on this washer and outside on that washer? Line them both up and then line it up with your sprocket. So that way you look cool. Because apparently looking cool is important to some people. Since I have the power tools, I'm going to use them. Nice and tight, all ready to go. Ow, that was pokey. Those teeth will bite you, so be careful. You'll notice I'm not taking them all the way out. That's just how I like to do it. Get them all loose. To start with, then I'll pull them all the way. Someone might be thinking or saying, man, that fancy aluminum to steel sprocket he took off, all anodized, cool parts, trick parts. Why is he putting on that just regular old steel Sunstar sprocket? The reality of it is, it's not about looking cool, it's about actually being cool. And in 1992, Jeff Stanton ran Sunstar sprockets on his bike. So I put a light layer of grease on all the sprocket bolts because these are steel and we don't want them stuck to the aluminum magnesium fancy corrosion of the hub. So just an actual genuine light coat. And even though these are lock nuts, you do not want these guys coming loose or the sprocket will cock sideways and break your hub. So I always double up with some Loctite. And while we're speaking of this, you want to use quality parts. Quality sprocket because it'll hold up a lot longer. Quality bolts. It makes some aftermarket ones. These take so much strain, so much stress, all the torque of that bike pulling on these bolts. So you want a high quality bolt that's going to hold up to the wear and tear. A little therapy here with the finger. See how it works out for me. Getting putting these together, we're definitely not going to go tight. In fact, I'm going to be a little attentive about this and even put them on in a crisscross pattern. Even though that is completely and totally not necessary. That's only necessary that you tighten them in a crisscross pattern. Again, not tight, loose. Get them all started, then we'll tighten them down. Okay, there's torque values on that. You can look it up in your manual. But the torque I always use as tight as I possibly can get it. Because again, you do not want these guys coming loose. I put the T-handle in, so if the bolt starts to turn, you can see that and hold it. While you're down this far, perfect time to put some never seize on your adjuster bolts. So crack it loose, and with the wheel off, and get the T-handle in here. Crank her all the way out. The important part here is to make sure the sprocket's on this side and the brake rotor on that side. Good job, man. If you're messing that up, you should not be doing this. Alright, I have a gold chain, not because the color looks cool, but again, because of quality. This is a Pro Taper PT520 MX, excellent chain. Scott's also makes a wonderful, excellent chain. I think I've also got some DIT 520 MX. The thing you want to look at is the tensile strength. The highest tensile strength means the higher quality chain will last the longest. On a motocross bike, stay away from the O-ring. It drops too much power. Even on a 450, I wouldn't give the power loss for it, or the X-ring. So I just run a standard, because in motocross, you're not going for longevity of the chain, because you're running through water and stuff like that. You want as much power as you can possibly get. Okay, this is the part you can really mess up when you go to cut your chain. If you cut it on a half link, you'll realize you've ruined it, because you'll have two open forks and not the hole that you need for the master link. So if you look real close, see on the sprocket, it goes down and the pins sit. So once we push this pin out, we have two holes to get the master link through. Most people think just get the axle as far forward as possible and cut the chain, but that's not the case. It's now a performance issue. The shorter the wheelbase on the bike, the tighter it turns. The longer on the wheelbase, the better high-speed handling, the better straight line. So say for Supercross, you might want a shorter chain, run it up all the way, get rid of an extra link if you can. For a fast outdoor motocross track, you run that thing back as far as possible, maybe be an extra link. But if you're the average Joe and you can't tell, it doesn't matter, get her in the middle, so that way you get as much chain life out of it as possible. And know that, don't run these up all the way forward, because all the way up it never turns out to be where you want it. Okay, I have a chain breaker here, and it makes this job real easy. The trick here is to make sure the pin is not sticking out too deep. So run it back, make sure it's a nice detent inside there. Put it over the pin you want to cut. Let me double check. Measure twice, cut once, especially with an expensive chain. Line it up on the pin, front and rear. Now the trick to not breaking the pin inside your chain brake is to get this as tight as possible. And crank her in. Start cranking away on her. And we're going to see how much muscle I do or do not have. It's going to be real hard at first to get through the first rivet, then it gets easy for a while, and then it gets hard again to drive the rivet through the backside. And once it's done, you can pull your pin out, loosen the pin up on your chain brake. Don't drop your tools like I just did. And there we have it. Made in Japan, right side up, just to look cool. It's not about looking cool. Now when you put your clip on, the direction matters. The opening to the back. If the opening's to the forward, the strength and torque of the bike will cause it to pop off. You'll lose your chain, break your case. So the opening always goes to the back. I always think of it like an arrow. You want the arrow pointing forward, the direction the chain goes. You'll notice I took it off with the black pair of pliers, put it on with the blue. These are a little worn out, the edges are worn, so it makes it kind of a difficult fight. A new pair of pliers with a nice sharp edge makes it go a lot easier. In fact, they make special pliers where the one is slightly higher than the other for this exact job. But just a good pair of new pliers makes that so much easier. Okay, when removing the chain, you want to make sure you take all the slack out and it's not gapped here. If your axle's still loose, one trick, shove a wrench up in there, pull it. And that pulls the axle forward and tight so you get it set where you need it. When you've set the free play already and knowing it's a new chain, it's going to stretch quite a bit the first ride out. So set it at the minimum side of free play of slack. You don't want it too tight because again, the chain could snap, damaging your case. You don't want it too loose. It could slide off and damage your sprocket, wheel, get caught up and just tear up your swing arm, or just make a lot of noise and beat up your frame as you're going. Now, when you're setting the adjustment, you'll notice there's serrations and a pin mark. So you know 1 full and a half, 2 full and a half. But that's not quite precise enough for me. And measure the top of the bolts right there, and go around the other side to get it the exact same. So that way your chain and sprockets are perfectly aligned. Your wheels tracking straight and true. You're not doing any damage to your new chain wheels and chain. All right, that's going to wrap up our video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, maybe learned a thing or two. If you haven't done before, chain and sprockets are definitely something any dirt bike rider can do. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed the video.